Thanks so much. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I hope you're all a little more wide awake than I am, because we have a lot to get through this morning. So just so I know kind of who's in the room, anyone in the room from a kind of field marketing kind of function? Nobody? A couple of people? All right. Anybody in the room from more of a corporate marketing function? Anyone from a comms team? Any vendors in the room? All at the back, good, okay. Anyone realizing they're actually in the wrong presentation? They should be downstairs? No? Okay. All right, so I work for a company called Pure Storage. I've been in B2B, high-tech B2B companies. I've worked for HP, for EMC, most recently for Pure. So I'm just going to share with you some of the kind of perspectives and insights of mine just on kind of where we are as an industry, and then talk to you a little bit about kind of, at least for Pure Storage, kind of 6 of the big things that we're focusing on this year. So, as I said, I've worked in high tech, and in technology, it's obviously a sector that moves very, very quickly. Right now, it's in one of probably the biggest transitions that it's ever had. So as we move away from kind of the client-server environments that people built based on local area networks and the internet back in the 1990s, and they're moving to a world dominated more by mobile devices, by social media, by analytics, that is causing a massive, massive transition for IT. In fact, it's probably the second biggest transition ever for technology since the 1950s. The other big one was really at the end of the 80s, the early 90s, as we moved off mainframe onto client server. So if you're in technology, you're very, very used to change, and people are kind of dealing with being in the middle of one of the big shifts. But if you're in marketing, I believe that we're actually in an even bigger transition, probably one of the biggest transitions for over the last 50 years. And that anybody that went to school and learned a bunch of stuff about marketing, even as recent as 3 to 5 years ago, it's becoming less and less relevant like every quarter that goes by. So over the last 50 years, 60 years, anyone want to take a guess at the single concept that marketing has been based on? I know it's early in the morning, people, but it's earlier for me, believe me. No? Anyone want to warrant a guess? I thought all you Aussies were really like out there. Okay, so last 50 years or so, most marketing has really been based around a single concept. And that single concept is called the interrupt, which is basically, as a marketer, I'm going to find a way to interrupt whatever you're doing. And for a moment in time, you're going to pay attention to me, and I'm going to tell you something. And if I can interrupt you enough times during the day, if I can do it with enough frequency, if I can do it with enough reach, if I can interrupt enough people over a day, then slowly, over time, my ideas become your ideas. Now, we've found lots and lots of ways as marketers to interrupt people. We've become really, real specialists at interrupting you. We can interrupt you with billboards. We can interrupt you with digital ads. We can interrupt you with email, that telemarketing person. Lots and lots of ways to interrupt you. In fact, if you live in somewhere like Times Square, and God knows why anyone would want to live in Times Square, but if you did, you'd be interrupted about 13,500 times every day by marketing messages from organizations that want to stop what you're doing and tell you something. Even if you live in somewhere like Madison, Wisconsin, I'm not quite sure what the Australian equivalent is, maybe it's Canberra, but out in the middle of nowhere, that was a joke, by the way. No one from Canberra here, is there? You'll still be interrupted about 2,500 times a day. So marketing people have got exceptional at interrupting you and building whole sets of techniques and programs and infrastructure to go and interrupt you. The problem is that this is causing a bit of a challenge. Any cognitive psychology majors in the room? Not one? There's always one in one room. Cog-sci majors? Good. Okay. We can have a frank conversation then. All right, so if you go and speak to a lot of the neuromarketing people, they'll tell you that all of these interrupts are having a chemical impact on the brain. So I can tell you all about cognitive psychology now, and there's no one that's going to be able to tell me that I'm wrong. So there's kind of the 3 layers of the brain. You have the kind of the 4 lower orders of the brain, you have the limbic brain, and you have the neocortex on the top. Anyone want to take a guess at what any of the 4 lower orders of the brain are? But you'll be very familiar with them once you hear the name of them. All right, tough crowd. All right, so one of them is the fight or flight mechanism. Okay? It's hardwired. And what you see from a psychology perspective at the moment is that all of these interrupts are starting to make people's fight or flight mechanism fire constantly. When that fires, one or two things happens. Either you engage with it immediately, or as it was happening with marketing messages, you screen it. And if you screen it, then it doesn't make it into the limbic brain, it doesn't make it up to the neocortex. So, we're going to do a little social experiment. Anyone in the room watch any television last night? If you did, put your hand up and keep your hand up. Anybody, keep your hand up if you remember the commercials that you watched. There's always that one person who's like, I remember the gecko. So, very, every time you do that, exactly the same. There's always one or two people there, I remember this, I remember that, some advertisement. At the moment, marketing people are spending billions and billions of dollars putting, I don't know, car commercials in like cooking shows for some reason, and hoping that it's going to resonate. And one of the big challenges we have as marketers is that people simply are not listening in the way that they used to, because the lower order of the brain continues to either screen out the marketing messages that you're sending them, or people just simply scoot through the commercials because they're all watching it on demand. So that's one of the big challenges for marketers, is people are just listening less. Here's the second one. Anyone go to business school? Anyone go to do anything like marketing degree, MBA, something like a bunch of it? So all heard of this beautiful, we saw it on the screen before, the sales funnel, sales and marketing funnel. This beautiful linear thing that started off with some kind of awareness that drove purchase consideration, that ultimately drove loyalty and advocacy. Beautiful, like, linear thing. Now, I'm not sure whether it was ever really that linear, but today it certainly isn't linear. Today it looks something a bit more like this. So in American, they call this chutes and ladders, but luckily I'm in Australia, so I can call it by its real name, which is snakes and ladders. So this is what the buyer's journey looks like today. Square number one tends to be Google. Doesn't matter whether you're looking to buy a camera or a storage array, people always start doing their own research on Google. They'll do a little bit of research, and ultimately, at some point, they'll get to square 8. And on square 8, they'll find a trusted resource, that somebody that they believe has a great point of view. It could be somebody, it could be word of mouth, could be somebody they talk to, could be an analyst, could be a review in a magazine, and they go up the ladder to square 26. And they keep going along, and they'll go to a party, and they'll be like, hey, I'm thinking of buying this camera. Oh, I bought the last version of that camera. It's not so good. And down the snake you go. And so the buyer's journey is incredibly, incredibly complex. Just to give you a little data point on like how complex this is, Google Shopping did an awesome piece of research last year around how people bought a GoPro camera. And they watched 3,000 people buy the same device, the same GoPro camera. Any idea how many navigation paths, individual navigation paths, those 3,000 people took? 3,000. They all made the journey up themselves. Now they're going through the same, people might call the same basal nodes. They're going through the same websites, they're reading the same reviews, they're engaging in the same social media, but the way they're stringing it together is completely unique to them. So being able to model the buyer's journey is really complex. In fact, I would go as far as to say it's so complex, you cannot do it with people. It has to be built on machine learning to really understand the buyer's journey today. So that's the second challenge. First one, nobody's listening. Second one, the buyer's journey is so complex, it's really hard to model. Here's the third one. In the good old days, if you wanted to control your message in the market, it was really, really easy. All you needed to do was control a couple of groups, the people in the stripy suits that you saw earlier. You needed to control the industry analysts, the Gartners and the Forresters in my industry. You needed to control the press and what they said about your products, and you needed to control the industry analysts, or that's the investors. If you controlled those three groups, then you controlled your market, your message into the market. Then unfortunately, this darn thing called social media came along and like blew the doors off on that, where suddenly all of these people started popping up that you had absolutely no relationship with whatsoever, who had a very, very large megaphone that were talking to maybe tens of thousands of people with opinions for good or for bad about the products and services that you delivered. This is like fundamentally changing the way that at least we think about communications and about engaging and controlling our message going into the market. So those are for me, like the three macro challenges that we're all facing right now. People if we're using traditional techniques, people are listening less and less and less every quarter. The second one is the buyer's journey, so complex that it can't be modeled by human minds. And the third one is that your message is no longer your message, it's everyone else's message that you need to co-opt and massage. So that's all the bad things. Here's the good thing. The good thing is that more and more and more of this buyer's journey is happening digitally. Again, if you look at some of the recent research, people will quote your number somewhere between 60 and 85% of the buyer's journey is now digital. It's now 60% of the buyer's journey is an emotional decision they're making. Before they go to your website, before they speak to one of your sales reps or your partners or your customers, they're making emotional buying decisions. As they're making that emotional buying decision, they're leaving a little trail of digital breadcrumbs. This is supposed to be a cookie on Google, by the way. They're leaving a little trail of digital breadcrumbs. They're leaving it in terms of the likes and the dislikes of posts that they see. They're liking it by dropping cookie or creating cookies on your websites. They're doing it through social media and conversations. So while the role of the CMO really used to be the chief megaphone officer until a very, very few years ago, the role of the CMO today is really to be able to garner all of these different sources of information to build the best kind of psychographic profiles of individuals, and it's a very, very individual thing, and be able to be the custodian of customers and customer insight for the organization. And I think for many to do that, they need to solve a simple problem. And that problem is, can I understand the context of where somebody is in the journey? Can I predict the thing that they're most likely to do next? And can I do both of those things in real time to deliver highly personalized, highly targeted offers to those individuals? So that's kind of just the industry context of kind of where, at least from our perspective, where we think the industry is. Let me share with you now six things that as an organization we're very focused on delivering over the next kind of 8-9 months. So before I tell you what's going to change, let me tell you what I don't think is or should change. So marketing people love shiny new toys. Anyone agree? They're like always, oh, it's the new thing. It's like social media, we've got to go do that. Oh, predictive analytics, we've got to go that. Oh, programmatic buying, we've got to go do that. They love shiny new toys. I am a great example of that. Here's what I think all of us should continue to focus on. It is that it doesn't matter how much marketing magic dust you sprinkle on things, unless you've got a core story, like a core message, which is simple, which is concrete, which is differentiated, which is unexpected, it doesn't really matter. And many, many organizations just simply don't spend enough time on their story and on the right design point for their story. A lot of time, I don't know whether your organizations are the same, but certainly in technology, a lot of stories kind of get reverse engineered. They have a bunch of product people that will build a bunch of assets, and those, so they build a 170-page white paper. Anybody read 170-page white papers? We still do them. They build the data sheets, and then at some point, those data sheets turn into tweets and social media and that sort of thing. So the one thing that we're really, really pushing our product teams right now is to change the design point. And we've actually made the tweet the design point. If you can't say what you need to say for our message in 140 characters, then you're probably complicating the issue. And we design, all of our content, that's where we start. Everything happens in 140 characters. Now you can expand 140 characters really easily. You can take 2, 3, 4, 5 tweets, and that creates a copy block. You can take a copy block and blow it out into a data sheet. You can take a data sheet and blow it out into a 175-page white paper for those people that still really read white papers. But it allows you to go the other direction much more simply. You can take that tweet, and everybody knows that a picture says 1,000 words. So you can take that tweet and you can turn it into a picture. As you notice, I haven't used any words yet in my presentation. I don't tend to use words anymore. And then everybody knows that a video is 60 pictures every second. So why not cram so much information into a second of information and do that again. So the design point is changing and allowing us and getting the organization focused on, can I say things really succinctly, really, really simply, and then use that to go build a much greater group of socially consumable assets or chunked assets is super key. So that's one thing I think doesn't change. The one thing that is really, really changing, though, is the tone of the story that you tell you. Like, I have no idea why when we talk in like normal English, like this. Well, I realize you speak in Australian English. It's not really quite the same, but you get the idea. You speak in like normal words, normal language, and yet when people go to their white papers and their websites, they talk in this weird, like corporate, wonky, third-person speak. Like, people don't talk like that. Why do you do it on your website? Why do you do it in your data sheet? Because it sounds more business. Well, people don't trust business these days so much. So being able to build a message which is like in plain English, which is really, really simple to understand, and a message that does two things. One, it either informs people or it educates people. Sorry, it's the same thing. It either informs people or it entertains people. If you're not either informing people or entertaining people, there is no way you will cut through the noise. You're not competing in here. You're not competing with all the people you probably think you're competing with. For us, we're not competing with EMC. We're not competing with HP. We're not competing with IBM for headspace. We're competing with like Rihanna. Where am I going on vacation? What are my kids doing at school? That's the thing that fills people's headspace. The only way to cut through is either to entertain them or to educate them. And that's why I think things like this Thor advertising campaign are really like, okay, it's kind of funny. I like that. The third one is that for many years, last 5 years, many of us have had a strategy around like, you know, the rally cry, like mobile first or social first or digital first. And that's, anyone got one of those? Yeah, we're all kind of got a digital first, right? And that's all been really, really important. I definitely advocate everyone keep going with all of that good stuff. But I think there's a bigger kind of sea change that's afoot at the moment. Is increasingly the way that people engage with the world is digitally. Even in offline events. You go to I had a great example of this the other day. Customer walks into an event. The first thing they do before they look at any of the stands, they look at anything, first thing they do is they download the app because they want to engage digitally with that physical experience. So rather than having like a digital first as like a strategy or social first as a strategy, the assumption that certainly we're making is everything we do is digital. That's where we start, and everything else factors into that. And that has, when you really get your head around it, that has a really transformative, it transforms your perspective on the way that you might do things like traditional functions like comms and PR and AR and that sort of thing. Very, very different if you start with digital. So that's the second or the third one. The fourth one is that I'm a big believer that in kind of delivering experiences to people. We were talking earlier about going to Monaco. One of the reasons, or the reason we're going to Monaco is we're a big sponsor of the Mercedes Formula One team, and they're both a customer and a sponsor for us. And people are like, hey, like we're a 2,000 person company. Why are you sponsoring Formula One? Well, the reason is more CIOs watch Formula One than any other sport on the planet, and that's kind of our target audience is CIOs. Secondly, it's a very, very technically oriented sport. But thirdly, it allows you to hit that intersection between people's day jobs and people's passion and pastimes. And that intersection is a really, really, really strong place to go hit people. Because if you want to go and market your products to them, the most disarming way of getting into their brain is getting in through the things that they love. If they love cooking, if they love racing, if they love whatever it may be, if you can start your story there and back into your product, that's what really, really powerful thing. So for us, we create experiences for people that they would just not be able to do in any way. I think creating experiences for marketing teams has always been kind of number one. It's always been one of the most important things that people have done. I think the opportunity to create new types of experiences steps up very significantly in 2016. So with the advent of the HTC Vive goggles, the All right, that's my jet lag just kicking in. Those are the goggles, the really famous ones. Well, Oculus Rift, there you go, good. That was a test. Good, you are awake. Allows us to go create really, really unique differences and allow kind of customers to go dream with us for a second. A lot of people assume this is only for kind of B2C. I'm a big believer that 5 years ago, yeah, sure, there was B2B marketing, there was B2C marketing. Today, the two are really very, very similar. People's expectations have been set by consumer goods, consumer devices, consumer expectations. Those people happen to go into work. We call them employees when they're at work, but their expectations are the ones that are set in the consumer space. So while it's obvious that you can use virtual reality to go in, if you're a real estate agent, do you call them real estate agent? What do you call them in Australia? Yeah, good, right. Oh, good. Right. I never know whether I should be using the British or the American. So real estate agent, sure, like everyone knows, you can use virtual reality to go and look at your new apartment of the future. If you're going to go and buy a new car, you can sit in the car, put the virtual reality goggles on, and pretend that you're driving the car. But even in I don't think that B2C people should have all the fun. Even in B2B, it provides a really, really immersive way of people getting engaged with your product. So the picture you see here is a picture from our user conference in March, where we did the first ever walk-through VR experience at a trade show, according to Oculus Rift. Where we were launching a new product, and we allowed to put people inside the new product. We set them a bunch of challenges. So they put the goggles on. In front of them was a big skyscraper. The lights came up. They realized it was the new product. They could walk inside the new product. We set a bunch of challenges for them. They learn all about the product. The final one was a fascinating one where they were standing on a 3-meter square. They had a little 5-meter bridge and another 3-meter square, and you just need to walk across it. And of course, when you take your first step, all the floor drops away, and you realize you're actually standing on a 3,000-foot pillar with a 5-meter bridge to another 3,000-foot pillar. And the number of people that take the first step and then just collapse on the floor was quite fascinating to watch. So it provides very, very visceral, very, very kind of real experiences for people, and a completely new way of engaging them in your products and your services. Now, obviously, this kind of technology still tends to be very expensive, price point of about $1,000. So yes, you can use it in showrooms. Yes, you can use it at trade shows. We've taken a lot of these same concepts and put it on the road using kind of Google Cardboard. So we build the same VR experience. We put it into a Google Cardboard viewer. They cost about $3. And you can provide something very, very similar for people by them just dropping their cell phone in. So I think this is a really, really exciting way of engaging customers in new campaigns. A lot of the campaigns we're thinking through now are we're like, hey, why don't we go back to direct mailers and send out like orange Google Card? We're all about orange, by the way. Send out, not because we're Protestants, we just like orange. I'm sure we have some Protestants too. So we can send out Google Cardboard direct mailers. They can download the app, drop it into their iPhone, and they can go engage with us in a way they've never been able to do before. The almost kind of last one is this one. So anybody who was again, in terms of their experiences, in terms of their design, if you're not putting mobile first, 2016 will officially be the year that you will have missed mobile. So if you're not building your websites in responsive design, if you're not building your content specifically for the mobile channel, I would definitely advocate getting on it this year, because by the time you get to next year, the world will have left you behind. And then the second one is kind of social media. So a lot of times, social media engagement, communities, that sort of thing, started in support organizations. It started in marketing organizations. Social media is not it's not a strategy. Social media should be viewed really as a channel. And it's a channel that really should be engaged with by your whole organization. A couple of little anecdotes for us. So we have a sales manager in Italy who has his little Hootsuite dashboard, and he monitors his top 30 accounts for anything that comes on social media from those top 30 accounts. If he sees something that's relevant, he will pick it up. He'll send a response or a data point back to that person. And over time, over a very, very short amount of time, he begins to build relationships. The fascinating thing about social media is that it's completely disarming. Like, people are very, if you call somebody and like, hey, can I come and talk to you for 20 minutes? They're like, no, sorry, I'm really too busy. Thank you, good night. Whereas on social media, you can reach out to people you've never met before, and in a really short amount of time, build a relationship with that person. It's fascinating how that works. So this person, we have an account. We've been trying to get into Eni. It's a big petroleum company in Italy for the last 3 or 4 years. Never been able to do it. They wouldn't speak to us. They wouldn't pick up the phone. But on social media, our Italian sales manager and the CIO of Eni became best buddies. And he saw that he fell down the steps and broke his ankle. He sent him a tweet. He sent him some flowers. And a week later, we got into the account and we closed the account last quarter. So social media has a really transformative capability of changing traditional business processes. So definitely, like, if you're not on mobile, get on mobile. And social media, it's not a marketing thing. It's not a support thing. It's a way to engage customers for everybody in the organization. But then here's the kind of the final one, is the big goal for 2016 is you need to get these two people together. So anybody in your organizations have a formal kind of data science function in marketing? A couple of people here or there. So I think probably for the last 4 years or so, I've seen organizations building data science functions. Really, and they start really with just getting their arms around all the data that they own. So how do they get all the sales-related data? How do they get all their support data? How do they get all their clickstream data, everything out of Omniture and that sort of thing, and get it together into one place and run some analytics on it? You can learn like a reasonable amount from that information. But where it becomes real, and it's good for like historical rear view reporting. Where it gets really interesting is where you merge that data with social media data. If you're able to pull the Twitter fire hose, if you're able to pull everything from the LinkedIn and the Facebook APIs and blend that with the data that you own, it becomes very, very predictive of people's buying behavior, because you're able to find groups of individuals that react a certain way and apply that grouping to all of the content. So even organizations, so my prior employer, we were really, really deep into predictive analytics, probably over a 3 or 4 year period. The challenge is and anyone, those of you who've got data, you're not data scientists yourselves, are you? No? No? Okay. If you ever met a data scientist, in general, they speak like Mandarin or Hindi as their first language, like R, which is a statistical programming language, is their second, and English is their third or fourth. It's very, very hard to communicate in general with true data scientists, which is why the people on the right don't like them. The people on the right are the cool, hip, like advertising, programmatic marketing executives. In order to solve this problem of being able to truly gain customer insight, this is the year where we need to find a way to bring these two groups together. Because only if you can solve this problem of understanding the context of where an individual is in their journey, only if you can understand and predict the thing that they're most likely to do next, and there's no debate here on what the cat is going to do next. 9 out of 10 people can probably predict it accurately. And only if you can do those two things can you put offers that are highly personalized and highly targeted in front of that person at the right time. That is the only way that you will be able to figure out all of this mess that's going on and get your ideas and your concepts in front of them at the right time. So it wouldn't be fair if I didn't do my gratuitous plug at the end. Anybody that's interested in running an analytics function, building a data science lab, that sort of thing, yes, you can do it on clunky old technology, or you can go and buy this cool orange gear. If you look at some of the biggest, 7 of the top 20 SaaS providers in the world, people that you'll know like Nielsen all run on this equipment. It's super cheap. You can buy it in Australia, and it will allow you to do 10 times more analytics in the same hour than any other solution on the planet. Okay, thank you.